Let's talk to Trey Thomas. Trench Talk. I like it. Hashtag Trench Talk. Use it. Find it. Get used to it. At 72, Trey Thomas, former Eagles left tackle. He joins us now to break it down right here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Trey, welcome aboard, man. How you been?
I've been good. How about yourselves?
We're all good, except for this news that suddenly came down last night. It always seems to happen to the Eagles. They get snake bitten with injuries like this, and it couldn't happen to a better guy in Brandon Brooks. But let's get your take, number one, on the impact of losing him to this offensive line.
I think it's huge, just because, what all he brings to the table, he and Lane Johnson, they feed off each other. So, it's going to be a little different seeing that he's not going to be there for the entire season. You only have a couple weeks, really, because I think they're going to have training camp starting up around July the 21st or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that actually plays out. You're going to have to bring in some young guys. And then, I was talking earlier, I went back and I watched some film, and I think that Matt Pryor could be the guy that could step in and fill those shoes.
Let's talk a little bit about Matt Pryor, because he did play a game last year in the playoffs that people might forget. How did he compete in that game? And, do you think that he is a 16-game NFL starter at that position?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you only had those two games to kind of go off of. You look at this, the first Seattle game and then the second game against the Giants. And, what I saw from him was someone that was working on timing, had a really good center base. You didn't see him just getting ran over out there. It's one thing when you have a young guy come in and he's just a turncoat. I think that he went out, he came out there and he held his own, and he did a good job with protection, shooting his hands, switching off games. And also, a lot of people don't realize how difficult that going into New York and playing was for him, because now that's his first time having to do silent count. And for us, you have the guard that's looking back at the quarterback to start the cadence while the center is making all the calls. So sometimes by the time you turn your head, everybody's switched around. So, it was I think that was a lot of people probably looking over that, but that was a huge deal for him to be able to handle the silent count while he was on the road.
How do you think this impacts Carson Wentz's game, or do you think his instincts just come in? Because I know he likes to roll to the right and throw on the run, and I just wonder if maybe he's thinking in the back of his mind, oh, that right side now is a little bit weaker.
Well, I don't know why he would think that, because, it's not like Matt Pryor caused any issues when he did get in the game. He wasn't one that was getting beat up out there. So he seemed like he held his own when he was given the opportunity.
So Trey Thomas with us. So let's talk about Jason Peters then, because he, like you, played left tackle predominantly. I think he played a little right tackle in Buffalo way back in 2005, but he's been a left tackle his entire career. I believe he has volunteered to play guard if necessary. But can you just say to Jason Peters, come on in and play right guard? Does that make sense?
No. It's because he's been in a left-handed stance for, 15 years now. So just to say, all right, hey, we're going to just switch you over to the other side, and, oh, yeah, you're not going to be playing where you used to be playing. We're going to put you out put you down here in guard. That's a totally different situation. Then now, I think everybody just feels like, oh, yeah, you can just mix and match and everybody can move around. It's not like that. It's not that easy to just be able to move to different positions like that, especially when you've been in a left-handed stance for so long, and to say, all right, just switch over to a right. It takes a long time to kind of get that muscle memory to change, and then, you must try to go back to what's familiar, what's comfortable, and then that could be a problem. And I think a lot of people just are like, well, hey, does he have the skill to do it? Yeah, he has the skill to do it. The skill isn't the problem. The problem is the wear and tear on the body, because if you were getting beat up out there playing against defensive ends, you're definitely going to get beat up when you're down there in at offensive guard, where you're dealing with bigger defensive rushers. And now you're the guy that's going to be starting the movement. So when you look at guard play against versus tackles, usually it's the guards that start the movement when it's double teams, or if there are any combination blocks. They're the tip of the spear when it comes to setting up those blocks. So, that's a lot of pounding on the body as well.
That's a great point, by the way. Trey Thomas, hashtag Trench Talk on Twitter, @72 Trey Thomas. I don't think people really recognize that, hey, you're banging defensive tackles as opposed to ends. That's a lot different inside than you are on the outside there. Where do you think this affects them more, in the run game, pass game, or, quite frankly, everywhere?
You know what? Like I said, I really think Matt Pryor, there was no drop-off. I thought that Matt Pryor came in and held his own out there. I mean, he did a really good job of creating movement. Whenever there were double teams, he came in there and blew guys off the ball. I thought he was really good at protection. So, to me, I don't feel like there was a major drop-off from him. And you're talking about somebody that his first game was, week 10 or 11 in the season? And, that's your first taste of action, and you go in and your first drive is 11 plays. So I think that just, for him to have the mindset to be able to even just step into that role and hold his own was enough for me.
Doug spoke today and mentioned how they're going to look in-house to fix the right guard issue. And do you think that they still need to bring somebody in? Because what happens if somebody goes down on the offensive line now? I don't know if the answer at that point is sitting on the roster unless you see something in the rookie Jack Driscoll that you saw in college that might speak out to you a little bit.
Yeah, I looked at Jack. I looked at Prince as well, and I've watched both of their games. But, right now, they just need to get comfortable with everything that's going on, because I want you to understand, when you talk about right guard, that's a big role for this offense, especially when you're on the road, because you're the one that has to start the cadence. And I know that everybody oh man, all you got to do is turn around and then come back and tap Kelsey on the side and then get back. But you have to be able to say, okay, you have to make your call, tap, and then find your guy on the run, and you have to get back to balance. There's a lot going on just in those couple of seconds of play when you're on the road, for especially for our right guards.
What is your feeling on Dillard then? I mean, we keep talking about Peters as a right guard. Is the answer of, well, you should really look at him at left tackle, or do you feel comfortable enough with Andre Dillard that there's no need to bring Jason Peters back here either way?
Yeah, I'm good with Dillard. I mean, the only the way I would bring JP back is if it's something like I just felt like I couldn't get these guys up to speed. And then with me as a coach, I feel like I can get anybody up to speed. So, that would probably be my only reason for having to do it, if you feel like, oh, you know what, I can't get these guys ready to go. But I do. After sitting down and watching Dillard, I felt like, it took a little while for him to go back to some of the stuff that he was used to doing when it came back to taking his set lines. I felt like at times he was setting a little more at 45 than he was used to doing. He wasn't punching as much, so he was catching a lot, and I think that caused a lot of his problems. And once you get out there and you feel uncomfortable and you're not sure of yourself, then that's going to make it bad for you. Because, I mean, you look at each game, he continued to get a little bit better, from the Minnesota game to the Dallas to the Buffalo game. And then finally when he came back and he played against Chicago, you can see that his game was way different. He played with a lot more confidence, played in good balance, used his hands a lot better. But then you go back against New England and you put him back out there at the right side again, and he started feeling uncomfortable. He got beat up a little bit, and then you put him out there at Seattle and had him start at right tackle, where he's never been in a right-handed stance. And it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad when he was at right tackle, but there was enough bad stuff to where you felt like, okay, we can't keep this going, because you might crush his spirit.
What is your favorite part of Andre Dillard's game when you're watching his tape?
When he plays with confidence, he does a really good job. He takes a really good set. You rarely see him get beat on tackle TEs and ETs when I'm talking about games, stunts that the defensive lines are running. So, he takes a really good set depending on what the defensive tackles are going to give him and defensive ends. So, I think that was one of the things I really like about him. And when he shoots his hands, when he plays with the confidence to shoot his hands, then you can see a different player out there.
Hey, on the Brooks injury, is this a change? I mean, I know you said that Pryor, there's not that big of a drop-off, but Brooks is regarded as maybe the best guard in the league, if not one of the best offensive linemen in the league. Maybe Pryor can handle, but does this change the outlook at all for this offense?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's just going to, I know it's a heavy blow when you say that you just had one of the best guards in the game go down. But I mean, this is what you have to do. You have to continue moving forward. You can't change your offense, for anyone. So, and you can't get out there and start sliding the line to protect offensive linemen, because if you start doing that, then now you start opening the quarterback up to getting blitzed to death. So, you have to make sure that you stick to the rules of the protection and can have guys out there that can hold their own without you having to try to protect them.
Now, that said, Doug today said that he thought Alshon Jeffrey would be a big part of the process when he returns. Now, this is interesting because is it difficult about 8 games in to say, hey, we're just going to reincorporate a guy who seemingly isn't like, he's not like Jalen Reagor. I mean, maybe J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, they're hoping is kind of like Alshon, but are you kind of interested to see what they mean by making him a big part of the offense, or when you have Alshon, you figure out a way to fit him in?
I think they're just going to try to fit him in. I mean, you got a couple of different weapons out there. You're going to see how you can make it all work. And then that's just a part of being a coach. I mean, right now you've had a lot of time where you have guys that haven't been in the room, so you can sit down and really come up with all kind of different schemes and watch film and really get creative with stuff now. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays off with the coaches when it comes to game planning and how they're going to introduce everybody to different roles.
What are your thoughts on the age of the offensive line? You got Kelsey, where every year we're questioning if he's going to return or retire. Brandon Brooks now with this injury, and he's hitting 30. And then Lane Johnson is also on that 30 side as well. Do you think it's time to maybe start, as we see with Andre Dillard, implementing some of the new younger guys, or do you think they still got some time left with this crew?
Well, you still got some time left with this crew. But you're going to always be looking to bring in young talent and see what all, who can get out there and hold their own. And, I think that you're always going to be bringing in new talent and bringing in younger guys to see what all they can do and then see who all can learn from them. It's going to be interesting to see what Prince and Jack bring to the table and see what type of players they are. But we'll see how everybody develops.
We'll leave Trey Thomas with this. We got a lot of people testing for the coronavirus. Zeke Elliott reportedly one of them. When you hear a high-profile player, typically it doesn't. High-profile player does put some red flags up. Are you starting to get concerned about starting the season on time?
No, I mean, this is just where we are. I mean, this it doesn't matter if you're high profile or no profile. It doesn't matter. You need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and doing the right thing. And then, I really don't know. As a player, I just feel like, I would have been ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the date is, all right, hey, that's what we're going to do. If everybody's in on the same page, then, hey, here we go. Let's go to work.
All right. Well, is there
I get it. I get the concerns.
Is there a spot on the field for Bryce Harper?
You know what? I was just laughing about this picture at first because I'm like, man, it's a really cool picture. It looks awesome, Do we have enough equipment for Bryce Harper, though? Do we have enough headbands, wristbands, and all the stuff that he likes to wear? Yeah, it's interesting to see him in a football uniform because I like, what position do you think Bryce Harper would play?
I would think like a high school wingback, like the guy in the Delaware wing tee that you handed the ball off while he was going in motion, right?
Maybe.
One of those guys. Trey Thomas at 72. Trey Thomas used the hashtag Trench Talk. You can see him talk a lot of offensive line and Eagles and NFL. And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Thank you, Trey. Appreciate it, man.
All right, no problem, man. Take care. Have a good one.
Excellent breakdown of the Eagles' offensive line from Trey Thomas.